heart, with love, Mubaraki this Jubilee. With heart, with love, Mubaraki this Jubilee. Your hand is on my shoulder, your face fills my soul with the truth, and as clear as the sky is blue, I'm always one heart, one love, in harmony, this family. With heart, with love, Mubaraki this Jubilee. Is on my shoulder, face fills my soul with the truth. Your hand is on my shoulder, your face fills my soul with the truth, and as clear as the sky is blue, I'm always with you.
नूरानी चेहरा है, फूलों का सहरा है, उम्मत पे पहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है, रिश्ता ये चेहरा है, फूलों का सहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है। नूरानी चेहरा है, फूलों का सहरा है, उम्मत पे पहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है, रिश्ता ये चेहरा है, फूलों का सहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है, रिश्ता ये गहरा है।
जमात शादमान बरकती मोमे समान,
रूहानी है सामा, जगमगाई है कहकशां।
one heart, one love, in harmony, this family. With heart, with love, Mubaraki this Jubilee. With heart, with love, Mubaraki this Jubilee. What are we connected by? What are we connected by? What are we connected by? What are we connected by, by? What are we connected by, by? What are we connected by, by?
Kaeni kwa amani. When the lights go dim, when the night walks in, there's a static rumbling pressing on my heart. When I dare honestly, and I stare back at me, there's a muted screaming rising from the dark, clutching the sink, cold ceramic, struggling to think, find magic, anchored to lies, a cage of my own device. Started with you, ends with me. Your name on my lips, your flag on my street. It started with me, it ends with you. I throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with you, ends with me. Your name on my lips, your flag on my street. It started with me, ends with you. Throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with me, it ends with you. I throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with me, it ends with you. I throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with you, ends with me. Your name on my lips, your flag on my street. It started with me, ends with you. Throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with me, it ends with you. I throw in my chips and leave it to truth. Started with me,
Rahim. Your Highness Sheikh Nayan bin Mubarak Al Nayan, distinguished leaders from the UAE, Excellencies, leaders of the Ismaili Muslim community, athletes, volunteers, and staff of the Jubilee Games, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to congratulate everyone who is participating in and helping out in these games, as well as those who participated in and helped to organize the events leading up to them, for their collective effort to promote fitness and camaraderie through sports. In the current times, I can think of no better way than this, and of no better place than Dubai, to promote the notion of bringing young minds from diverse backgrounds and different environments together in a spirit of friendship and peace. I know the efforts that all you young and able athletes made to come here. I salute your resolve, and I pray that you may carry that spirit of friendship and peace with you when you return to your homes. Finally, I would like to conclude my brief remarks by conveying warmest greetings from my father, His Highness the Aga Khan, His Highness Sheikh Nayan, and to the government of the UAE, and to all who have enabled these games to take place. I convey also his very best wishes, to which I add mine, for a most enjoyable and fulfilling week for you all. Thank you.
Yalimada, welcome, bienvenue. A very happy hello to our Jamaat and our multi-faith family members. Thank you for joining us tonight on Friday Night Reflections, which has basically become weekly appointment viewing TV. It has been awesome. The clip you just saw was Prince Rahim speaking at the Jubilee Games. I'm sure many of you have fond memories about being in Dubai, competing with your fellow brothers and sisters, and representing your country, which is just so unique. It really is our version of the Olympic Games, which is the ultimate global event. My name is Nabil Karim. I'm honored to be your host for tonight's program. I'm joining you from Avon, Connecticut in the United States, where I'm currently based. Can't come home right now, so I'm not gonna lie, I do miss Canada a lot, and this is a great way for me to connect with the Jamaat once again. It's an exciting weekend as our global Jamaat will come together and witness the first ever eFootball Cup Finals, which is a Jubilee Games initiative. Now, for those of you who are new to esports, and there will be some, let me give you a quick crash course, okay? Esports, electronic sports, refers to competitive organized video gaming, which has taken off around the world, okay? Players from different leagues or countries, they'll face off in such games as FIFA, competing digitally with others while fostering new friendships across the globe. I wish this was around back in the day when I was playing NHL 94, and I know some of you are with me because that game was fantastic. So it's fitting that the theme of tonight's show is living your dreams, sports, and the pursuit of excellence. And it's really cool for me to be hosting this week. I've been in sports broadcasting now for almost 12 years. It's been a wild ride that's seen me move across the country and then actually move countries. I'm originally from Vancouver. However, I made stops in Prince George and Winnipeg for my first couple jobs. For basically the past decade, I've been in Toronto, most recently at TSN, where I anchored Sports Center. But I also got to cover some of the biggest events in the world, like the Olympics, the World Cup in Brazil, which was fantastic, and the Stanley Cup Final. And yes, I was there when Vancouver lost to Boston in Game 7 in 2011, which was heartbreaking as a Vancouverite. And no, for the record, I did not start the riots. That wasn't me. I was upset, just not that upset. About a year and a half ago, I got an incredible opportunity to move down south and join ESPN, and it's been pretty cool to host the original Sports Center, which is one of the most iconic shows in sports television, but not just sports television, TV period. So tonight for me, this comes full circle, and our community has been so vital for me personally and professionally. When you watch a TV broadcast, you'll see one or two faces. When you watch something like this, Friday Night Reflections, same thing. Don't be fooled. It's a collective effort. There are so many talented people behind the scenes that are the backbone of every show. It really is a team. And it's the skills and life lessons playing in the Ismaili Ball Hockey League, IHL, Friday Night Basketball, Lionsgate Jumat kind of regional, national tournaments. Win or lose, I gained so much valuable experience and was able to take away so much from the leaders around me. I was fortunate to have volunteered with AKYSB on various projects throughout university. That time was invaluable. Working with so many accomplished people, I was able to soak up that environment. And honestly, it forced me to crank up my work ethic, which has been greatly beneficial. I've been mentored by so many in the community, some who are in the industry, and others who I just admire. There were some who just took an interest in my career and my dream. That guidance, that support, that motivational boost was much needed and much appreciated. And as many of you know, moving around a lot can be daunting. However, going to Jamaat Khana in whatever city I've been living in has always provided that sense of comfort and belonging, making you feel like you're at home. So once again, just very cool, very honored to be part of tonight's program. Okay, let's get into it. Earlier this week, I had a conversation with three Ismailis whose careers in sports and media have inspired so many. We chatted about issues facing our society today and how sports has the potential to affect change while bringing people together and creating a deeper sense of community. Faisal Kamisa moderated the conversation. I've known this young man for a long time now. He's doing amazing things at Sportsnet across all their platforms. He is a rising star. Shirali Najak is one of our panelists. This man has paved the way for so many in sports media, including myself. He's a senior producer at Hockey Night in Canada. For years, he worked hand in hand with Ron McLean and Don Cherry. He joined us from the Edmonton bubble when the NHL Conference Finals are underway. And we are excited to have Salima Musani as part of our panel. She started golfing at the age of 13 and hasn't stopped swinging since. She's got an impressive resume as a professional. She's won over 15 titles from around the world, including multiple Canadian LPGA wins. She participated in the US Open and once played golf with Tiger Woods. Now that is a story right there. I'm gonna have to bug her about that one after. I'm gonna call you Salima because that is very cool. I gotta hear about that. Salima joins us from where else? A golf course in Vancouver. From there, we'll highlight some of the elite Ismaili athletes as they climb the ranks in their respective sports. And then as always, we'll round out the evening with some uplifting musical expressions. So, grab your cup of chai, okay? Grab your naan katai. Don't be shy with that. All right, grab one of these. All right. Dunk it in, not too long, not too long. I don't want it to break. And let's go.
All right, so we have Shirley, Nabil, and Salima here with me. And guys and girl, it's important I think we start with a question that could take the entire time here, but we'll try to make it very brief, all right? We've got 7 hockey teams in this country. In Toronto, where I live and where Nabil used to live, Matthews, Tavares, Marner, Nylander, all right, we know. Edmonton obviously has all these superstars. Vancouver now sent home. Nabil, I'll start with you because you're in the States and I know you hold down the coverage of hockey in there for the people down south. But are we cursed as Canadians in terms of hockey? Let's just start there and get it out of the way.
Well, let's not say we're cursed as Canadians because there are a lot of Canadians that are winning the Stanley Cup. They just don't play in Canada. However, franchises, like you're right, I mean, it just feels like year after year there are expectations for plenty of these teams and they don't come through. The Toronto Maple Leafs, a great example year after year. The Edmonton Oilers, another example of that, having Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I'm from Vancouver originally, so I was cheering for the Canucks this way too, for this run that they had. I thought it was exciting. So after almost a decade of basically rebuilding and retooling, they finally have a core that's pretty nice going to the future. But man, it's got to be frustrating in Canada. And the Americans here, they always ask me, why are you always cheering for Canadian teams? Because I want us to win. I actually want us to get a Stanley Cup and bring it back to Canada.
Shirley, nobody covers the game closer than you. What's your perspective on the state of Canadian NHL teams right now?
I think, yes, we're cursed.
Okay, wow.
We're very
Coming
cursed.
out there and saying it.
I think the Leafs are, because of all the moves that have happened and everything they've put into it, the hockey gods have an interesting way of doing things. And when Tavares left New York and now you see Lou Lamoriello's team in the third round, that is just such an image that sticks with me. And JT's just of course, a beautiful person. It just, the way it's all worked out, there's something in the air. I just put it out there. I think there is something in the air. Now, down the road, it'll happen. Of course it will at some point. But, geez, right now, yeah, we're cursed.
All right, man, save this for the Saturday night conversation that you deal with, okay? Salima, your perspective on this, because, you know, we're talking about hockey, and obviously you play a different sport, you play golf, and we see a lot of Canadian athletes coming up in different sports beyond hockey as well. I'm interested on your take on the hockey argument, and then how excited you are to see the growth of so many other sports in the last few years as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I hate to admit that I'm not the biggest hockey fan. I don't follow it as much as I follow NBA and obviously golf. But yeah, I think it's wonderful. It's the excitement here in Vancouver. I'm here in Vancouver, and the excitement here during the Canucks run was quite exciting. To come from 3-1 down and make it to a Game 7 showed a lot of promise, and I think a lot of people are now jumping on the bandwagon for the next few years to see what the Canucks can do. And I mean, from the perspective of my sport, golf, I've never seen it so busy. I've been here in Vancouver for 7 years, and I can honestly say it's never been so busy. So if nothing else has happened, I think COVID has been great for sport.
Well, that's interesting, because I feel like the last thing you said is more consistent with the latter part of COVID, because at the beginning, when everything shut down and nobody could go outside and nobody could watch, it was very different. And we'll get into that conversation in a sec. But Salima, I want to start with you just in regards to what it is you do and how it is you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I'm a professional golfer. Played, kind of went through the ranks, grew up in Ontario, played the junior golf circuits, and then went to the United States on a golf scholarship, graduated from Stanford, and turned professional right away. Went on tour, played on tour for about 8 years. Had a bunch of health issues that forced me out of it. Went and coached golf for 3 years at Stanford. Felt the itch again, went and played again. Didn't work out, health issues came back, and now I've been in Vancouver for 7 years and coaching full-time and playing, a handful of events a year. So not nearly as much as I used to, but getting to kind of express my passion a different way.
Which is amazing nonetheless. Shirley, we'll go with you. Tell us a little bit about what it is you do and how you ended up there.
I will, just before I start that about myself, I will tell you that I grew up with Salima in Hamilton. I got to tell you, Salima, the entire community of Hamilton and across Canada, obviously, but we're proud of you. Like, that is a lot of respect towards what you do and how you do it and the person you are. So lots of props your way. And Nabil, I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, and I started at the CBC at a very young age. I just knew that sports was my passion, and live event television was really what I wanted to do forever. I wanted to feel that pressure. I wanted to feel that split-second kind of nervousness of live event television, and that's what I pursued. And right now I'm a senior producer for Hockey Night in Canada, so I direct live television and I produce live TV, mostly sports.
And Shirley and I very rarely, but sometimes get to work together with me at Sportsnet and him, usually in that building, although hopefully one day it's bigger and better things for the two of us together there. Nabil, how about you? Because I know your story is so fascinating and one that's inspirational to all of us that do sports broadcasting here in Canada. And you're in the South right now, obviously in the States, but tell us about how you ended up there and what led you to that point as well.
Well, I was at TSN prior to that, working on SportsCenter as an anchor, reporter at times. My story, and I think kind of what you're referring to, is I was going into criminology when I was in university. That's kind of the path I was following, my sister's footsteps, just kind of being lazy and just doing that. And, I finally decided I wanted to give this a shot. And so I kind of took a different path and went a different way. And then it's funny, Shirley's on this call right now because my big break was in Toronto for CBC Sports, and I was in Winnipeg, and I auditioned and I had multiple meetings, and I came to Toronto a few times, and I was connected with Shirley behind the scenes. So there's our community working for us, and Shirley was such a mentor for me, and I wouldn't tell him this in person because I don't want him to get a big head, but I will say it right now because he was huge for my career. So went from CBC Sports to Toronto, in Toronto to TSN, and then in the last year and a half, I've moved to ESPN. It was something that I never really thought about. Being Canadian, we didn't really get, we don't get the American Sports Center down there. We get some ESPN, but I was just looking for a new challenge, and the opportunity came up, and I'm pretty happy. It's been pretty cool to be on, the Sports Center, which is, you could say, I guess, pretty iconic.
Yeah, no, it is for sure. And Nabil, I want to stay with you because, the sport that ESPN covers a lot of, and obviously certainly right now, given the fact that it's in the news, is basketball. And we're seeing a weird intersect between sports and racism right now. And nobody's been better at the coverage it is than your company. And again, no sports has been more at the forefront of it than the NBA. What's your take on everything that's kind of going on in sport right now and the athletes using their voice to create some sort of change?
I think it's important. I think it's really important. And I know it's very political. And depending on what side you sit on, and you respect either side, but at the end of the day, it's become a human rights issue. And I think what the NBA players have done, I mean, when they shut down the NBA a few weeks ago, that was historic. It's never been done for that reason. And these players using their platform, and then around the leagues, right? The leagues, baseball followed through, hockey eventually followed through. And so forth. And I think, again, just really important because these guys have a platform. And what you need from this is actionable items. And the NBA got that. And, that's what they talk to their owners about. And now one of the things moving forward is that teams that own arenas will be using those arenas potentially for voting booths and places for people to go vote so they have access to voting. So I think that coming out of it, especially in a huge election in the States, is really important. And I think people want their sports to be separated from politics, and I get that. Mm-hmm. But again, I think this is a bigger issue. It's about humanity, and honestly, the NBA, they're just taking the lead, and it's been really impressive what they've done and the research they've come up with.
Shirley, how has it changed the way you guys have to cover the games and cover the events themselves? Because I know when it comes to opening intros, a lot of them have revolved around race relations in the States, and even up here in Canada, when it comes to signage on jerseys and on the ice and messages from teams and stuff, it's been a little bit different. What's been different about your job since the race relation talks has kind of made its way to the forefront?
It's a good question. I think it's more of a mindset shift now, where in the past, it would be very hard to bring up these kind of racial issues and even talk about black people in a boardroom. And now the acceptance of looking at racial injustice and what we're going to do about it, and some of the messaging, whether you're in a sports environment or whether you're in a corporate boardroom, it's the mindset has shifted where it's okay to talk about this, and that discourse and that uncomfort atmosphere, that has to happen. From my end in the NHL, there was a lot of ripping on the NHL for being late to the party, and they were really late, but they're there now. They got there, and as you saw with Ryan Reeves in the front end of the last week with all the players in unison. You see a lot. I'm in the Edmonton bubble right now, and you see a lot of players in the hotel and stuff, and everybody's focused on the game. They end up getting very one-dimensional and think about the game, and you got to give them that, because as athletes, as Salima would be able to talk to it better, you're driven and you're focused. But the mindset definitely is there, and that there's that cloud of being responsible with who we are and how we treat people now.
And Faisal, I'll just jump in quickly on that. I mean, you look back 4 years ago when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, and the narrative around that and the way that was dealt with to this day, where Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, has said and publicly said, we should have dealt with this differently. We should have looked at it. We should have listened to Colin. And just like Shirley said, it's uncomfortable to talk about. But finally, again, leagues like the NHL, maybe a little late to the party, but they're there now. And I think that's important because that's part of the conversation, right? Bringing everybody in and getting that awareness out.
Yeah, because the reality is, as a society, we're all late to the party right now. But the fact that I think people are slowly starting to get there and leagues are slowly starting to get there is hopeful for a lot of people to see some change. Salima, I'm interested in your perspective because as a female Muslim athlete, I imagine that's come with some scrutiny in your life as well. What has the last couple of weeks and months really been like for someone like you in a sport that, again, we predominantly perceive it to be a Caucasian sport?
Yeah, I mean, it's not only a Caucasian sport. Golf is very much a male-dominated sport. And so from that perspective, I mean, I find myself to be in a very lucky position. The students that I do have in the places where I do work, I have, there's a lot of respect, and there's a lot of, people are pretty appreciative of your skill level and what you do. When I was playing, there was definitely a lot more, I would say, separation, and we would play in pro-ams every week, and you're playing with men that are paying a lot of money, and you'd hear a lot of kind of side commentary. I won't repeat some of it, but yeah, they kind of get to a point where they doubt your skill level and what you're able to do just because you are a female. But from the perspective of like a race perspective and golf, I think more than anything, the beauty of what's been going on is more and more people are just coming out to play the sport. And so I look at it as a complete positive. All the exposure that golf is getting right now as a perfectly social, physical distance way to get outside and try something new. I mean, at the driving range, one of the driving ranges where I work, it's a public facility, and there's a lineup to the parking lot of all different demographics, young, old, different races, all coming to try a new sport, and I think it's been lovely to see.
Specifically, Salima, as it regards our Smiley community, we know, of course, Milana Hajimam played ice hockey and football as a student. He went on to ski at the highest levels as well, he even obviously competed in the Winter Olympics in 1964. Where have you seen the sport of golf kind of evolve in our Jamaat, or have you seen it at all over the last few years?
Most definitely. I'm getting a lot more Ismailis coming for lessons, and younger ones. A lot of people are bringing their kids, starting to realize this is a sport of a lifetime. It's a sport that you can start at any age, which is my youngest students are 4, and my oldest are in their 80s. And it's a sport that kind of mirrors life as well. I mean, you learn a lot of things that can help you through life, determination and patience. And I mean, it's not an endurance sport. A lot of people argue it's not a sport. So that discussion's always open, and I'll always fight to say it is, because it's very technical. It's by all means a sport. But to get back to your question, I think it's been lovely to see more and more Ismailis being exposed to golf. It's when I was growing up, honestly, I got lucky. I got very lucky to even be introduced to it and to excel at it, and it's definitely growing. Definitely growing.
Shirley, I was lucky as a kid growing up in the Ismaili community in the GTA to get to play in things like Gold Cup and ball hockey tournaments and basketball tournaments, all within our Jamaat. And these have evolved to a point where we've got national games now, we've got international Jubilee games as well. I know you've been involved in some of those. What have you seen in terms of the growth of sport in our Jamaat over the last 5-10 years, and how important do you think continuing to grow sport will be to continuing to grow our sense of community?
I went to the Jubilee Games to help out as a volunteer in Kenya in the late 2007 or 2008, something like that. And I was fascinated. I was humbled by the passion, by the people from around the world. And it was an Ismaili Olympics, which is what it is. And I think what we saw there was just a lot of bonding and a lot of connection. And for people, when they prioritize, Kuman over top of sports, I always think that sports for kids and for adults at any age, that connection, that humility, and that what it provides, just the characteristics that it provides in terms of leadership, is just beyond what you can sometimes learn in a book. And so I just think it's really important. And you see it every day when you hear people's stories. And Nabil and Faisal, you tell a lot of those stories on the air, and it's just human. It's just everything's about authenticity with these players, and I think it's really important.
One of the stories I got to tell last year was with the Raptor story from a different perspective, and I was so happy to see the game being played at the Aga Khan Museum, and I went there to do a little piece on the different types of viewing parties there were as the Raptors kind of made their way into the finals and eventually became champions. Nabil, I know, again, you spent a lot of time here. Your family, kind of started here as well. How do you see sports as a kind of foundational piece to enhancing community and kind of growing it as well?
I think it's critical. I just look at my own example. Growing up in Vancouver, I used to play in the Ismaili Ball Hockey League. That was like the grassroots level. Then I played in the Sports Fest tournament, the national tournament. And again, kind of like what Shirali was saying, I think it brought a lot of people together. And the neat thing was that there were people who you would see in Jamaat Khanas, you kind of knew who they were. They would go to different Jamaat Khanas. But there were a lot of people who didn't go. People maybe who were not so involved in our community, or who you don't see at Jamaat Khana very often, but they would come out and play. And through that, there was a different type of bond, right? And you got to get to know different people. And I think that was great. And you just got, and I also go with what Shirley says as far as life lessons. You learn leadership, you learn how to win, you learn how to lose. I've used some of those things, in my career, as far as we're in a show right now we're doing on Quibi for ESPN, and it's kind of like a startup show, and you use some of those valuable lessons that I've learned over the years from other people who were my captains back in the day. And I'm kind of using that now with my team, kind of being one of the senior people there. But even when I moved to Toronto, I actually signed up for the Smiley Ball Hockey League there right away because I knew I wanted to meet people. I knew that was going to be a venue for me to come meet people, to bond with people. And I've made so many friends through that. So I think it's invaluable what our community's been able to do as far as bring sports and people together and then grow from there.
Let's agitate one of the two cities, Nabil. Where were the better hockey players, Vancouver or Toronto?
Oh, you're killing me, man. You're killing me.
All right, listen, we only ask tough questions here. I'm sorry.
I'll say they're skilled players in both cities.
Don't cut the politics here. I mean, give me an answer.
I did play for Vancouver the 1 year. We lost to Toronto. It was the national games. However, I'm still gonna go Vancouver. I think Vancouver's got better players.
That's the safe play. I think
Vancouver's got better players. Yeah.
Obviously, we know it's been 6 months, which is hard to believe since the world kind of shut down, and with that, sports shut down as well. A lot of times, we as a society, whether you're smiling or not, you use sports as kind of your distraction. So, Nabil, I want to ask, how was it seeing your family for a long time, given the fact that you didn't have to cover anything for a long time?
My wife loved the fact that I was home. Nasreen, she loved the fact that I was home a lot more because Adam was home. He's 5 years old. My daughter's 1. And having a 5-year-old and 1-year-old, just complete different schedules, and going through that whole process and just everything being so new to us, right? Because he was so used to being on a schedule, being in pre-K. I think it helped a lot. Generally, I work late hours anyway, so I'm usually home during the day. It didn't really change much for me, but there were times that, it definitely helped out my wife. I think she probably would say I'm not very helpful if she was here right now, but I think I was helpful. I'm going to leave it at that, yeah.
Yeah. Be defiant. Don't say you think. You were helpful.
I was.
You were helpful.
I was. For the record, she's not here. So for the record, I was very helpful.
Faisal, I know that Nabil said that he was going to get into criminology, and I would not want you to be my lawyer the way you're arguing for him.
Dude, that's the problem. That's the problem. I would have been an average lawyer at best, and I knew it.
Leave it to your sister. Leave it to your sister.
True.
Shirley, I know we as a network were forced to come up with different ways to put out content during the time. I spent a lot of time doing exactly what I'm doing right now, sitting in front of a ring light, which I never thought I would own, with my phone plastered to it and a microphone hooked up to me, trying to figure out ways to deliver content. How did it force networks and people like you to think differently about how sports would be covered going forward?
Well, everything was easily accessible because of Zoom, and I got to tell you, I hate seeing Zoom on TV now. Like I'm yearning for the days of good quality production, and you see a lot of shows that are incorporating that now. But it did push us.
Do you think that's going to stay? Do you think that's going to stay? Because a lot of people, and I don't mean to cut you off, and we'll get to that in a sec. But do you think that the way that we've kind of evolved over the last 4 or 5 months is going to be the way of the future?
Totally. Everything evolves, and then things stick, and then it'll progress, right? So it's definitely a lot more an efficient way, but it also gives us instant access. We don't have to wait for a coach or a player to get to the rink to interview them. We can actually interview them at their hotel room, which is where I am in now, and we've done a lot of that type of things. But I do find that when you do have a camera facing you and there is some type of pressure, the athletes are a little bit different, and that's good and bad. I think they need to feel a little bit of that stage, that atmosphere of being on stage. I think that's still important. But then the authenticity of just looking into a phone and talking is pretty cool as well. So I think it did force us to come up with creative ideas. And Faisal, you were at the forefront in trying to think of different ideas to put on the network. So it pushed everybody to think about different types of content. And I think there'll be parts of it that stay.
I gotta say, I've never had so many athletes ask me about my kitchen, because that's all people are seeing for a long time when I do this, because of the size of condos in Toronto. Salima, what about you? What changed the most when the world kind of shut down because of COVID?
Well, for me, everything shut down. I mean, the golf courses closed right away, middle of March. And there was a lot of unknown. For myself personally, I was job searching. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was the future. I thought to myself, if golf is going to shut down, I'm going to have to find something else to do. And so it was a lot of uncertainty and anxiety. And if somebody had just said, look, on May 1st, everything's going to go back to normal, you're going to be busier than ever, I probably would have enjoyed my 6-week holiday, to be honest. But yeah, I think for me personally, it was a little bit of that feeling of like, like life is real. These things are going to happen. I mean, none of us would have thought we lived through a global pandemic. And so to even try and guess what it was going to look like, what it's going to look like moving forward. I mean, I'm imagining if sports are fanless moving forward, I don't know how that's going to work. It's different watching the basketball on TV with like Zoom characters in the background and artificial noises, and it's like it's very strange. And but for now, I think we all have to kind of just adjust, adapt, and be grateful that sport is back. I think it's a very, very, very important part of a lot of people's life and sanity. And I think it's great that we've found a way to at least bring it back in some capacity.
I have a hard time saying things are back to normal because nothing seems normal anymore, but having sports on and the frequency in which it's on right now too makes it feel like there's some level of normalcy in the world as well. Again, we turn to sports so often as a distraction from the realities of the world. And I know a lot of people have found comfort in the fact that there's just something on TV right now. There's also a lot of people, and Salima, you mentioned this off the top, that are picking up sports for the first time. We're finding ways to stay active in different ways. When we think of sports sometimes, and this is a huge misconception, we often associate it with youth, right? We know there are many, both their Jamaat and in the broader community, who stay active and pursue their sports and passions and do things at various different ages. Maulana Haji Imam and his passion for skiing is an example of that. What do you say to those people who feel like they are too old to start living a healthier or more active life right now?
I think there's no limit. I mean, whether you're going out for walks more, I think a lot of people have just gotten active even in that way. Just getting out. I think there's no age. It's never too late. I have a lot of students coming that are older, and they said they've been wanting to start golf for a long time, and they just never pulled the trigger. And this kind of kick-started them, kind of gave them the kick in the, the pants that they needed to pick it up and try. And the first thing they say after the first 30 minutes is, I wish I had started sooner. And I mean, yeah, we all wish we had done things earlier in life, but I mean, fortunately in a sport like golf, you can play it as long as you want, unlike some other sports where endurance and all those things come into play, joints and bones and muscles. But yeah, I think it's never too late. It's never too late to start something you want to do. And if that means just even going for walks daily, take this time to slow down and try something different.
I admit that's what I did, and I'm not an overly active person when it comes to going to the gym and pumping weights or whatever, because physically I can't, but taking walks was a bit of a place that I found a lot of solace in right now. And again, I feel really inferior because I'm talking to three unbelievably active people here, and Shirley and Nabil, you're obviously no exception. Nabil, what'd you do without a gym for a while?
I went a little crazy at first, and then I started purchasing equipment. And the funniest thing is, weights were impossible to buy.
They're sold out within seconds. They pop up and they go, right? Because everybody wanted a piece of those.
That's right. And so I bought these ones right away, kind of when the NBA shut down. I was like, oh, this might be for a few weeks. I won't be able to go to the gym. So I bought these Bowflex, like the adjustable weights. And I got them and I was like, great. And then I looked at the delivery time and it said 60 business days. I was like, that's crazy. I'm like, I'll be back at the gym in 2 weeks. Forget it. I didn't get weights for another 2 months. It was impossible to get. So I kind of accumulated things slowly. But on it, for me and for my wife too, it's a big part of our lifestyle to stay active. So we actually used to do Zoom calls with a couple of our friends, and it was just like workouts together and whatever we had at home. And if we didn't have weights, we'd use backpacks with weighted
children, right?
Yeah. We use our kids all the time. But I probably should admit that. But no, we just kept active as much as we could, and then accumulated things over time just to stay active. Because for us, it's so important. It's even a mental thing too, just to get in a quick workout and feel, feel a little bit better.
Shirley, again, I know you're big. I know you're a big biker. And,
Cyclist, not biker.
I apologize.
Don't go with biker.
This
That
is my
makes you
ignorance
sound
coming
cool.
to play. Sorry, Shirley. I'm really, really sorry. I'm really sorry. Let's just move on. Actually, no.
I'll
actually,
tell you,
yeah.
just on that Nabil talks a good game, but he's always texting me saying, I would love more pictures of you in spandex. And and I will tell you about what's inspirational about picking up what Salima said about you can start at any age. When I do cycle, and I'm not like my wife Julia was actually a close cut on the Olympic team in track cycling, and what I did was I joined a lot of clubs and groups within the Toronto area, and I cycle with people that are in their 70s, in their 80s at times, and these people kick butt. They focus on cycling every day, and they get out there in the sunshine. I cycled with a guy earlier in this summer who was 84 years old, and he did 100 kilometers with me. 100 kilometers at 84 years old. It was inspirational, these people.
And I will jump in. I will jump in quickly, Cheryl. You've been cycling. I don't know how long, but I remember when you were at CVC. When I was at CVC, so it is inspirational to see that you know. I know it's a big passion of yours, so it's pretty impressive what you've done.
We've seen some of our Smiley athletes make it to the highest level of sports. Salima competed on tour, as she said. Adil Shamazdin competed at Wimbledon. And Shirley, I know, again, because you work so closely with hockey, do you ever think we'll see the day where we find an Ismaili in the pro hockey ranks?
Absolutely, but I think the goal is just to get more people playing hockey and playing different sports. But absolutely, we'll see some hockey players, some Ismaili hockey players in the NHL or even in the other tier 2 leagues and stuff. But I think it has to start with passion. Let's feed that passion in youth in whatever sports that they enjoy, and then let them flourish in whatever way. And it's not always about winning either. Like that 4th place person on an Olympic podium could probably be the best soul that you'll ever meet beyond 1, 2, and 3.
But how important is it, Shirley, to see people who look like you in those positions first, right? Because I remember growing up, there weren't many, brown broadcasters, and Nabil certainly was one of them. He's not even that much older than me, but as I was starting school, he was a huge source of inspiration for me. And him and I have both talked about how you were a source of inspiration for us. And Salima, I imagine there are young girls and guys that see you and that are you're a source of inspiration for them. How important is it to have visual role models, Shirley? And we'll go around and get everyone's thoughts on that.
Well, Salima's an inspiration for me. What you're doing, Salima, still, it blows my mind just in that sport of what you're doing. I think if you can see it, you can believe it. You've heard that line before, and I think we need more people in the boardrooms, and we need to empower each other, but not just empowering within our Ismaili community. I mentioned black people before. There's a lot of injustice going on right now, and I think we have to be open with each other and help these brothers and sisters as well and empower them. I think we have to come clean with ourselves and say, you know what, we've done well. And we're still, it doesn't mean we don't help each other, but let's look at that person that doesn't have a connect, that doesn't have a community that might help them, and get that person and really kind of see what we can do for them.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And Salima, I know you garner praise from Shirley every time he speaks. How important is it to have visual, similarities to aspire to be what it is you want to be?
Yeah, I think anytime, if I can inspire one person by doing what I do, I think we've done our job. And for me growing up, I honestly didn't know a lot about golf. I happened upon it, and so there wasn't really anybody or anything I was following. My golf coach was kind of he was the one who was pushing me and telling me, look, you're good. Like, you need to keep doing this. And then as I got to know more about golf, I started following it. But yeah, I think for all these Ismailis that are starting to take up golf, and if I can be a source of inspiration and, kind of pave a way and help in any way that I can, I feel like that's a win. I had the opportunity a few years back to actually go do TKN in Pakistan, and I went with AKYSB and I taught golf there for a month in Karachi and Islamabad. And similar to what you were saying, Shirley, like I got to teach kids that have never been exposed to golf, and maybe after I left have never had the chance to go back and try it, but they had that opportunity for for a little while to come to the golf course and learn and try something different. And I mean, if they never learn golf, but it inspires them to go try something else that they can get their hands on, I think that's a win in all walks of life.
I love what you said about, being accessible for those who need the help or want the mentorship or want the leadership. And again, as I turn to you, Nabil, you were very much that person for me. I remember just cold messaging you out of the blue. I obviously seen you on TV. I knew you were Smiley, but I sent you this really, really long message, and within, an hour or two, you're like, hey man, just give me a call. And I think it was a Raptors playoff from many, many years ago when they were really bad. And you're like, yeah, man, like they're losing. Like, let's just talk. And you talk things out with me. And again, I can't tell you how much confidence that gave me. How important is it for you, especially given where you are now and the story that you have, to be a role model for the younger generation of people who want to do what it is you or I do?
Well, I appreciate the kind words. First of all, you've done amazing in your career. So it makes me proud to see what you've done. I think when I look back at my career, I wouldn't be where I am without a mentor. And for me, it was so daunting at first when I was in high school, when I wanted to do this, and I couldn't tell anybody because it was embarrassing. The only person I could see was Farhan Lalji, and Farhan's an OG, and he hates that because it makes him feel old. But it is what it is, right? And he's a friend and a colleague, but it was just really daunting. And as I was coming up in the industry, there weren't a lot of people in sports, but there were people in news, young reporters and anchors, and I reached out for mentorship, and I got a lot of that from people. And again, without that guidance, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so for me, it's huge to pay it forward. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, what your religion is, your background, your color. If somebody DMs me or messages me, I'm going to answer every single call, because I know what it feels like not to get the help, and I know what it feels like to get the help, and what a little boost can help and give you that confidence, right? And so I think it's just, and I probably told you this too, Faisal, paying it forward is so important. When you say, hey, let me take you out for dinner or something. No, don't worry about that. Help the next guy, right? Help the next guy. And that's, what Shirali did for all of us.
That's exactly what you did for me. That's exactly what you said. I said, hey man, thank you so much. Let me take you to lunch or something. You're like, no man, just continue to tell the next people to do the same thing, and then they do the same thing, and that's how you create a chain of really, really positive reinforcement for people that want to do this. Nabil, that's exactly what you said. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's what it is, right? And I hope, and I'm so proud. I look around when I look at our industry in specific. I mean, and Shirali, you'd even know this even better than me, but like, just in the years I've been in, about a decade, now we have in Canada just representation across the board, where it just wasn't like that before. And we probably have even more people behind the scenes that I don't even know about. But it just makes me really proud to see that we've done really well in this industry, and now we're really recognizable here too.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. When I was coming through the business, it was always about being in the pharmacy or being a doctor. And I remember trying to reach out and trying to find people, and the only person that I could find in the Smiley wise was an engineer. It was a technician and an engineer, and it was hard in those days. But I do remember when Nabil called a couple times early on in your career, Nabil, and what stuck out to me was his humility and his work ethic. It was just so authentic to me, and I remember thinking, this guy, and he was brutal, by the way, the first time we went on hockey night. I remember that.
That was the only one. That was the only time I got on. Thanks. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for the second try.
I got the tape, but it was you just knew that this was a blue chip guy, just in terms of character and work ethic, and that's it's amazing to see.
I'm going to go around and get some parting words of advice that you'd want to share to our Jamaat, be it young and old, people who are at home looking for ways to get active or get involved in the industries we're in right now. So Salima, we'll start with you. Any parting words or pieces of advice you could give to the people watching?
I guess it's, if I was to say anything, like try something new, whatever it is, whether it's, and try to make it active. While we're on the topic of sport, like I said earlier, even if it means going for a walk every day, or trying to play tennis or golf or kicking a soccer ball with your grandkids. I think there's a beauty in sport and a beauty in being active. Not only is it great for your health, it kind of opens things up. It opens up your mental side. It opens up, obviously, your physical side. And, these days that we went without having even Jamaat Khana, for me, like going for long walks was a form of like kind of therapy and meditation. And you kind of get in your own space and you have that time to have some introspection. And I I think it doesn't hurt any of us to try something new and expand our mind.
That's perfect advice. Nabil?
I'd go just the route of trying something different as far as if you're looking career-wise. We just coming off what we were talking about. I think just dream big. Set goals for yourself, though. And sounds very old school now because people probably don't use pen and paper anymore, but write them down, right? Put them down, whatever you have to do, but put them down so you hold yourself accountable. And I think I'm not a big guy of just setting some goals and then just going for it. I think you got to do the work, put the research in, talk to people. We have so many people in our community in all facets of industries, and just get out there and network, get as much information as you can before you start something, and then, work towards your goal, because especially right now, you can do anything really.
Yeah, just on that note, you got to hustle. And the reality is there's not a lot of jobs in sports, but there's a lot of jobs for really exceptional, great people. So be great and get creative. Don't be like the herd. You got to stand out a little bit, and that there's a real balance of standing out between being creative and being overbearing, but having that humbleness and knowing your place, but also being noticed. The other piece of advice that I would have for people who want to get into the business and who want to create content is look at this platform and help out. Volunteer for Friday Night Reflections. I watch it and I'm amazed. It's amazing to see the standard and the bar that is set at such a high level. I know there's a lot of wonderful volunteers, and it's really cool to see. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for platforms like this. And if you're ever in an Edmonton bubble, have your Swadana and Vicks Vapor Rub. Any immigrant needs it.
That's a weird combination to have, man. That's
a very
You're not
specific
old
piece
enough.
of advice, like a
Are we supposed to
really
ask?
specific piece of advice. I feel like there's a follow-up I need to ask, but I don't
Ask
want
your family.
to. And this is the one
Ask
instance
your
I don't want to
family.
ask the follow-up. My piece of advice for people, especially young people who want to do what it is Nabil and I do, and I tell this to everybody, is take advantage of the technology we have right now. You don't need a 4K professional camera to start something. We have our phones. This is what we're doing right now, by the way, more so than ever. You have access to YouTube. You have access to recording podcasts, with your friends or whatever. Just take advantage of the resources available to you. How I started was because, it would have been 10 years ago or 11 years ago now. I just decided to start a sports blog because people were tired of seeing my Facebook statuses with all my sports stats. I was like, all right, let's formalize this a little bit. And that in itself gave me the confidence to want to try this as a career. And here I am. And I know a lot of other people have found success just taking advantage of the technology that we have available to us right now. And so be it sport or anything, whatever it is you want to do, there's a way in which you can get a little bit ahead of some other people by just going out and kind of doing it right now. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be different. And again, and I can speak on behalf of the four of us, don't be afraid to reach out for help, be it either of us or somebody else in our community, because we're pretty good at getting back to people and looking out for each other as well. And at the same time, look out for others, be kind to everyone, be respectful of other ones, and make sure you listen to what people are saying, because we're going through that right now where a demographic of our population, our Black brothers and sisters, need us to listen and need us to help. And so when that opportunity comes for you to do something like that, make sure you take advantage and do it and help us as a society just become better. Nabil, Shirley, Salima, thank you guys so much. This was incredibly insightful, and I know on behalf of the people watching, you provided some invaluable lessons. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that and were able to take something away from it. Everyone in that conversation is living proof that we are beyond the days of just your traditional careers. It is okay to think outside the box, dream big, and follow your passion. And that's what Salima did, reaching the highest levels of a very difficult sport. Turning pro in golf, that is no easy task. And she's just one of a number of Ismailis who are making a name for themselves on the biggest stage of athletics. Adil Shamazdin, another prime example. He's won 3 doubles titles on the ATP Tennis Tour and is regularly representing Canada on the international stage. Faisal Qasim, he can relate. He represented Canada at the 2004 Olympic Games in Athens in table tennis. His hometown of Ottawa, uber proud. Here are a few more athletes inspiring others with their dedication, tenacity, and passion for sport.
So I'm currently on the Canadian national team, and I'm the #1 ranked laser sailor in Canada. And I've had the opportunity to represent Canada at a number of world championships and World Cups over the years.
So professionally, I play in Indian League and Afghanistan national team, and I captain my country for 6 years, and still I'm playing for my country. We have some matches for the World Cup qualify and Asian qualify, so I'm still part of the team. We are, because of COVID-19, we couldn't continue that, but in next few months we're gonna play that.
Hanif plays regional, national, international, and of course in the Beijing Paralympics. So he's a Paralympian.
So my journey started when I was 3 years old. My parents had put me into soccer at a young age, and I fell in love with the sport. So as I got older, I started playing more competitive. And as I started playing more competitive, these stages were just for me to grow and learn my strengths and weaknesses. And as I learned those, I slowly, developed my skills. And as you get older, it becomes more competitive. So of course, I tried to improve on my skills, better myself, and put in the time and hours, which is really important to get to the level that I'm playing at. So eventually, putting all the hard work and the hours in, I was asked to play for the Mount Royal University soccer team.
It's quite a long journey. He started out playing power soccer for a few years, a lot of contact sport, but when he tried out bocce, that's what he fell in love with. Competed locally, nationally, internationally. With his hard work and eagerness, he did make it to the Paralympics in Beijing.
It wasn't until age 12 that I was first introduced to the sport of sailing. And I was not a talented sailor by any stretch. And on top of that, I get seasick, and I was a terrible swimmer. So there was a lot of reasons why you would say that I was not meant to be a sailor. But I found a passion for that, and that sort of took over everything else. And so I really just quit everything else that I was doing so that I could focus all of my energy on getting better at sailing. And that's really what I've been doing for the last 11 years.
I think 4 years ago, that's when I sort of got inspired to maybe play at a higher level for this sport. And doing so well, coming from other sport backgrounds, it just felt really natural for me in certain ways, not just as a quarterback, but running with the ball and some of the contact aspect of it. And I loved it. And I just kept striving hard and pushing hard. And after the first nationals and the teams after that, to just every year growing more and more. And now finally I've been signed with as a professional athlete for the WFLA, which is the Women's Football League Association, which is the first ever women tackle football professional league in the United States. And I've been signed with the San Diego Tridents, which will start in February 2021.
I always watching TV and see a lot of people playing, and the first time when I played was 1998. When France played against Brazil in the final, I saw Zidane, so that inspired me a lot.
One of the biggest coaches in my life was my dad, because he trained me all the time and helped me improve. So honestly, what inspired me to play was probably just my athletic background that I grew up in, and I instantly fell in love with watching soccer and playing soccer.
There's a sense of freedom that you get when you're sailing, where you're the only person in the boat, you're in control, you're driven by the wind. It's a really unique, free feeling that I haven't found in anything else, and I think that's a big part of what drove me to the sport of sailing.
First of all, discipline. That is the most important thing in sports, and I learned that is very important, and hard work, dedication, all that in any, not in sports, in any field, when you're there, you have to give everything, dedication, everything.
We went to Dubai and I played for Team Canada for basketball, and we were lucky to win. Not lucky, we worked hard and we got the gold medal. So that's one of my favorite memories for these Smiley sports teams.
Actually, Hanif was honored to be the torchbearer, and he was the guest of honor at the Fana ceremony at the Smiley Center, Vancouver in 2016 for the Smiley Games. And he was so touched and honored we were all like emotional, but to be part of the community and be recognized in the community, he was touched, everyone was touched.
In our community, that opportunity come, of course, I play in 2008, I remember, and then the last one in 2014 also in Dubai I play. So both Golden Jubilee I play again in Kenya and Dubai, but that time from Afghanistan, now I moved to Canada, so I don't think so. Maybe next time, inshallah, I'm gonna play for Canada, and let's see what is gonna happen.
Dream big, to shoot for the stars, and to really not let anything sort of obstruct you or stop you from going after them. And you can really accomplish your dream at any age. And even myself, at the ripe age of 36, some would call me crazy for dropping my career as a doctor for 6 months to go play a contact sport. But it's something that I've dreamt about since I was a little girl, watching those Olympic teams and wishing I could represent my country or play professionally, and having this opportunity to kind of do something that I've always dreamed about and that I've been working so hard towards for all these years.
Hard work and dedication. That is a really big part of soccer, because every day you train is another day that you improve. And soccer is all about improving, because you're going to start off, and honestly, even if you start off really good, there's always going to be things that you can improve and work on to become the best version of yourself. So it definitely will take a lot of time and commitment, so hard work is very important, because every time you fail, that is a reason for you to motivate yourself to succeed. Throughout the years that I've been playing soccer, I've always used a mistake or a failure as something to push me to become successful.
It's not to give up, to keep pushing. Don't let things get to you. There's always room for improvement. If you push yourself and you keep trying, then you can do anything. If he can do it, yes, then you can do it.
I'm really blessed to be Ismaili Momin, to be someone that gets to represent my community, from Edmonton to Australia. Getting to play in this new professional league, I think, will be something that I hope other women or other people will look forward and sort of say, maybe it's something I could try, or even not being tackle football necessarily, but even in their own domains, it kind of gives people that hope or that inspiration of themselves, of maybe they can accomplish more than they thought they could.
Those are some impressive competitors. Good luck to them all. We end our show, as always, with musical expressions from some of our wonderful artists. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure to be your host. Please stay on for our musical performances. And then it is Game 7, Raptors Celtics. Let's go, champs. We the North.
everyone.